Mikee Cojuangco-Jaworski collected countless accolades in her decorated equestrian career, winning medals in international competitions. Now she may have notched her biggest win yet in the international stage. Recently, she was elected to the International Olympic Committee Executive Board, the highest body in arguably the most powerful international sports organization in the world. She made history too as she became the first ever woman from Asia to do so. But what does this all mean? She has always played a huge role in helping uplift the country's sports program. Now she has an even bigger responsibility and deeper mission to prove her worth. That's the headline on tonight's Sports Page.
The hottest headlines.
The integral issue.
Who will join the pantheon of the great?
What's the outlook of the future of sports?
The game
The
changers.
history makers.
Stories that make sports eternally compelling.
Open the Sports Page.
Good evening, everyone. We open another sports page. I'm Chiki Puno. We say this often on this show, but we really do have a very special episode tonight because joining us is a familiar face who is set to embark on the latest and perhaps the biggest chapter of her career. And she is definitely not horsing around. Tell us more about our guest. Joining me, of course, is my longtime partner, Sev Sarmentay. Sev.
With us today is Mikee Cojuangco-Jaworski, who, as you know, was elected to the IOC Executive Board, and we'll find out what that is all about. Hi, Mikee. How are you? How busy have you been during this quarantine? What have you been doing?
Well, hi, Sam. It's nice to be here. This quarantine, actually, I've been reminded na blessed ako na hindi ako na-bore anytime this whole quarantine. Of course, I guess the work in sports never really stops, and we've been able to do everything online so far. Even the IOC was able to do an online session. So, napakalaking bagay nun, and of course, it's something that's never happened before. So, aside from that, of course, local stuff, the Equestrian Association of the Philippines, I became president just a few days before ECQ was called. So medyo bitin sa mga plano. And of course, the ongoing work in the POC. So it's never really a dull moment, and having all the kids at home.
Let's get into what has happened to you recently. I know that you were already part of the IOC as far back as 7 years ago. Take us through that story. You became a member, I think, in 2013?
Yes. November 2013, I was elected into the IOC as a member. So since then, I've been a member of a number of commissions within the IOC. Last year, I became a chair of the Education Commission of the IOC. And this year, we had that election at the session. It was supposed to be held in Tokyo, kaya lang, well, as we know, of course, it was postponed. So we had the session online.
Okay. Mikee, you and me we have a relationship of surprises. On the last day in Busan, 18 years ago, you messed up beautifully our final report because you won a gold medal on the last day of the Asian Games in Busan. And now, was this election to the executive board a surprise, or was this something that just happened?
It was a surprise. It was almost of Busan proportions, actually. But I guess it was different in the sense that when I entered this contest, I really didn't know what the outcome would be. And everyone that was running, we're all friends. We all work together on a number of different responsibilities. So parang para sa akin, nothing to lose naman ako. I had everything to gain. So it wasn't nothing to lose, everything to gain. But of course, all of us wanted to win, right?
Did you have to campaign? Did you have
yes,
to? Oh,
yes,
okay.
yeah. So we had to file our candidacy, and I was already doing consultations with other IOC members, my mentors, my advisors as early as November of last year. But then I wasn't really decided whether I was gonna run or not until I guess end of January or early Feb. But at that point, we didn't know that life was going to turn this way in 2020. So even the other candidates we were talking, we said, we were thinking na makakapagkampanya tayo in person when we had our other meetings leading up to the session, but well, that didn't happen. So I'm not sure if that worked for or against me, but all I know is that I really prayed. I really surrendered myself to the process. I surrendered myself to God's will. If this is a responsibility that He sees I should take on at this point, bahala na siya. But I guess I had the same attitude as I did in Busan, was just to present myself as best as I could, and see. I couldn't control what I couldn't control.
Okay. Now, what exactly do you have to do as a member of the IOC Executive Board? What are the responsibilities involved?
Well, if you look at the IOC website, there's a whole list of responsibilities there. But if I had to summarize it, basically we act as the board of directors of a corporation. So whether it's administrative, financial, policy, the decisions that need to be made by the IOC, it goes through the executive board. And then, of course, there are a lot of decisions that have to go through also the session to be approved or ratified.
Ako, I have a question, Mike. I want to know your thoughts about making history, or as we say, herstory, by being the first woman from Asia to become IOC Executive Board member.
Well, first I was a little bit surprised that there was no Asian woman that had become a member of the executive board before me. There have been a number of African women already, and European women from the Americas, but I didn't realize that there had not been an Asian woman. A lot of people had commented that there should be an Asian woman, considering that Asia has been hosting a lot of the major events in the Olympic movement. But the truth is, I guess I never really felt different in the sense that everyone in the IOC, we all work together. The diversity is such a normal part for us. So hindi ako nagbibilang nung mga ganon. But of course, when I ran, I knew it was maybe a little bit pressure. Of course, I'm repeatedly reminded that I'm not there for the purpose of representing Asia, but you cannot take Asia out of me, and you cannot take the Philippines out of me, right?
And we are just getting started here on Sports Page. When we return, we will tackle the plans of Mikee Cojuangco-Jaworski as she looks to prove her worth with the IOC. Gaano nga ba kahirap ang bago niyang gagampanan? Find out when Sports Page continues.
It's a whole new postseason. Catch the NBA playoffs live starting August 18. Daily on NBA TV Philippines, weekends on TV5, and Mondays and Fridays on One Sports.
Time now for Press to Talk, where our friends from the Sports Beat get to ask questions of our guests. Joining us tonight are Lynn Olavarrio of News 5, Charmy Leasing of ESPN5.com, and Carlos Sacamos of Spin. Umpisahan na natin kay Lynn Olavarrio ng News 5.
The postponement of the Olympics poses a challenge for the athletes, not only physically, mentally, even financially. Financially, it poses a challenge for them sa training nila na na-extend. Ano yung maipapayo nyo sa mga athletes na pinagdadaanan yung ganong challenge ngayon because of the pandemic? And of course, we're all hoping to win our first Olympic gold in the next Olympics.
It's really a difficult situation, especially for the Filipino athletes. On the part of the IOC, a large portion of the budget of the IOC has already been allocated to the different national Olympic committees for the specific purpose of assisting the athletes in training. Of course, logistically, kahit na nandun yung funds, it doesn't mean na makakapag-train ka ng maayos. So definitely that challenge is something that our sports leaders and especially the NSAs, since sila yung nakakaalam kung ano yung dapat gawin ng mga atleta nila, have to be creative about. And also, other than that, the ANOC, the Association of National Olympic Committees, na nakaupo din ako sa executive council niya, we were supposed to have a General Assembly in Bangkok this year. We already canceled that. Tapos yung buong budget ng General Assembly na yon, dinistribute ng ANOC to the different National Olympic Committees all over the world. So there's some funding. There has been financial assistance naman. Of course, it's up to the POC how the POC will use that for the benefit of our athletes who have qualified and still trying to qualify.
All right. Thank you.
Up next is Charmy Leasing from ESPN5.com.
Being the first Asian woman to be elected in the IOC board, what do you think is the significance of this achievement, not only for female athletes, but also for aspiring female sports leaders in the Philippines?
Well, I hope that more women will be encouraged by it, especially Filipino women. I even in my life as a young athlete, naging example din para sa akin yung ibang mga nauna sa akin. If they were able to achieve it, then I felt that maybe there's a possibility na kaya ko rin. So in this situation, sana maraming mga kababaihan ang magsabi rin na kung naabot ni Mikee, siguro kaya ko rin yon. So I really hope that it's something that will give that kind of encouragement to Filipino women, regardless of whether you're in sports or not. Just for a woman to be in a decision-making position. Ito pa lang, bago pa lang ako. So sana maging maganda yung maging contribution ko as an Asian woman and as a Filipina, with Asia being also one of the most active continents in hosting major sporting events, then hopefully that will bring more appreciation to Asia.
And finally, we have Carlos Sacamos of Spin.ph.
Hi, Miss Mikee.
Hi, Carlo.
Madali lang tong tanong ko. You've been a member of IOC since 2013. What do you think? You've known how things are run in the International Olympic Committee. What do you think can our local POC learn from how things basically are being run? Para ma-improve natin yung local POC natin?
From Olympic Agenda 2020, one of the recommendations na lumabas is a document on how the different National Olympic Committees can have a good relationship and good cooperation with the government arm. So for other countries, it's a Ministry of Sport o kung saan mang ministry nakasama yung sport. Sa atin, it's the Philippine Sports Commission. Because the structure of sports in most of the countries worldwide, talagang nagre-require siya ng cooperation between the government and the National Olympic Committee. So isang example lang yon. And another example is the amendment of the Philippine Olympic Committee Constitution right now. So the amendments are being done based also on the strong recommendation of the IOC na obsolete na, may mga bagay na doon na kailangan ng ibahin para makapag-move forward din yung POC, makapag-keep up din tayo. So yon, yung mga bagay na yon. And the other parts would be basically relationships, finding connections na makahanap tayo ng best coaches or best places na, yung mga ganong bagay.
Thanks again to our friends from the sports media for joining us tonight on Press to Talk. Ako naman ang magtatanong uli ngayon, Mikee. What is your favorite moment as a national athlete in equestrian?
Oh, there are so many. There are so many, and a lot of them are not even directly connected to to sports. I mean, not necessarily playing the sport itself, but just the camaraderie with the other national athletes, living in the same building or in the same village as athletes from other countries. And it's fun. So the things that we work for, the things that we push ourselves for, it's it's in itself a reward. You know, everything from the cafeteria, from sitting around outside of the building in the evenings when everybody is finished training, or waiting for your turn to wash your clothes, or shaving the heads of the swimmers using the clippers that we use for the horses. I mean, there are so many, so many experiences.
If they
And
only
then the competition itself, right? I mean, of course, iba pa yon, ibang level pa yon.
alam ba ng mga swimmer yon?
Oo naman, kasi sila yung lumapit sa amin eh.
Okay. Now, I'm sure yung pagiging national athlete mo has given you distinct advantages now that you're a sports official. What are those advantages do you think that you can bring to your work now as a sports official, both internationally as well as dito sa atin?
Well, I think first of all, if you look at the composition of the membership of the IOC, there are really a lot of athletes, former athletes who are members also, and most are Olympians, elite athletes. So I guess in that sense, we bring something similar to the table. But I've been very blessed and fortunate that my mom, when I was very young, insisted that we see more than just the competition venue itself. She taught me, and I guess influenced my other teammates, that you have to see the culture of where you are, of where you're traveling. And it became even a tool for us to use when we're competing, that when you understand the culture of where you are, when you understand how to communicate with the people from the different countries, and then you become friends, you know, it becomes a network also. The appreciation of working with people from different backgrounds, different orientations, different cultures, you know, you cannot put anybody in a box.
That's a great advantage that you have. Now, Mike, I remember you and we guested in the Public Relations Society of the Philippines. I also moderated that. And you talked to me back then, that you had, when your dad was POC president, you had a lot of conversations with him about sports. What have you learned from your dad, his experiences in sports, that you now bring to your responsibilities and your new duties?
Well, my dad is a sportsman, and he's always been. But so I see I learned how to love more than the sport that you love. You know, how to appreciate the work of everybody involved in sports, other than where I came from, which is equestrian. The appreciation of the different kinds of training, the different systems in every sport, that I observed that with him. I'm very grateful that my dad, both my parents, but even my dad, gave me a certain amount of independence also, which began at a young age. And as a mother, I even wonder, how did my parents give me so much freedom to be on my own as an athlete, so much freedom to make decisions for myself, and even in points where we didn't agree, as long as we did it respectfully. Of course, when I was young, it was different, but as I got older, there became a level of respect, you know, between us, where it wasn't just a father and a daughter. And at a certain point, it was really an IOC member and an NOC president. And I have that kind of relationship with him, where we can compartmentalize it. We're talking now as me as an IOC member, and now I'm your daughter.
You get to talk to your father-in-law about these things as well. Of course, former Senator Robert Jaworski is also has been a sports icon. Do you get to talk about these things also?
Yes, but of course he's an Olympian himself, and it's something that it's a highlight for him. And he's had a very colorful basketball career, but most of that was in the professional league. So while he has a very big understanding of the Olympic movement, most of his life was spent playing professional basketball. But that's not to say that we also don't have interesting conversations. And of course, when he was a senator, he studied a lot about the Philippine Sports Commission, the POC. So, yeah.
So much we are learning from you, Mikee. Do not go yet dahil hindi pa kami tapos. Up next on the show, we will discuss the latest updates on next year's Tokyo Olympics. Is there a possibility that it will be canceled entirely? That's coming right up. Welcome back to Sports Page. We asked, how can Mikee Cojuangco help the Philippines as a new executive board member of the IOC? Heki Centillas lobby to IOC, the Olympic training funds given to many countries so that our athletes can benefit from it. Gerardo Villadolid focusing more on Filipino athletes, such as getting funds from different countries and building sports facilities in the Visayas and Mindanao for aspiring young athletes. And Miko Morales says Mikee Cojuangco could be the voice of developing nations, including the Philippines, in advocating for more parity in the Olympic Games and international competition. And let's find out from Mikee, what is the latest on next year's Tokyo Olympics?
There's nothing definite yet right now.
So nothing still moving as long as we have this pandemic, of course.
Yes, but the attitude of the IOC is full speed ahead, focusing. It's gonna happen. We're gonna make it the best that we can, given the situation that we're in.
Okay. Now, who do you think has the best chance of bringing home a medal? I won't put you in the spot by saying gold, but who do you think has the best chance?
Well, you know what? As a Filipino, I'm hoping all of them will. And, these are, well, of course, for our pole vaulter, it's really amazing that he was able to qualify and that he will be participating. Any event in athletics is so extremely competitive. And of course, Kaloy already won a gold in the World Championship. So, as much as we don't really want to put pressure on him, we can't say that we're not hoping that he could do that again. And I believe that we can be very competitive in boxing. Of course, we're not even yet talking about Heidelin, who is already an Olympic medalist, right? So as a Filipino, even if I see the advantages that other countries have over us as far as their training opportunities is concerned, we can never take it out of ourselves to hope that every one of our athletes would be able to win a medal. It doesn't even matter. I mean, you and I have been in venues for watching our athletes. It doesn't matter what their odds are. We're still screaming. We're still screamming for them. We're still waving the flag, right? So
it was hardest in your sport because it's so well behaved. I could not shout your name in Hiroshima. In Busan, I managed to do that. It's okay. Now, how closely is the IOC watching the Philippines in terms of sports? Is it interested, concerned? What is our state in the IOC as far as the Philippines is concerned?
The IOC is always concerned about the welfare of the athletes, good governance, and how the IOC can help the national Olympic committees develop and progress. So that's why there's a lot of interest. So for every NOC, it's a different situation and it's a different relationship also. But I've always observed, even before I became an IOC member, that the IOC is always quite involved.
And Mikee, here's a question that we really need to ask. What is the most difficult, maging atleta o kaya maging artista or maging sports official?
Um, Artista, kasi mahirap umiyak.
Kasi biglang nagaya ko yung kaklase kong si Boy Abunda. Biglang. Talaga, bakit? Bakit?
I think, when I was younger, I was always very sensitive and emotional. And I know, I really taught myself not to be like that. And even as an athlete, we have to be able to control our emotions, keep our focus. So when I started acting and I had to be motivated to let this kind of emotion come out, I said, why why do I want to make myself emotionally vulnerable again after teaching myself not to be? And how can I compete properly if everybody gets nervous, di ba? Pag kinabahan ako, baka mamaya biglang umiiyak na ako doon, nakasakay ako sa kabayo ko, umiiyak ako kasi ninenervyos ako. So I think it was hard for me. It was hard for me too. That's why I always ended up in action comedies, which I enjoyed so much.
That was an interesting part of your life. Now, Mikey, as the parting shot, what's your message for the young Filipino athlete, the dreamer? What kind of dreams should they aspire for, especially with sports in their life? What can you say to them?
Keep dreaming, because I only got to where I am from dreaming. And it didn't even matter who didn't believe in me or who did believe in me, because for as long as I put God at the center of my life, which means that I didn't step on anybody on my way, even when nobody is watching. Of course, God's always watching. But even when we think that nobody's watching, if we try to be the best that we can be, we can't go wrong. Sometimes, we would be disappointed. We may think that we didn't reach our goals. Even if we don't get that medal, to live our lives in an honorable way, the way that athletes are known to be, already makes us winners. And if it's your day, like it was mine in Busan, as unexpected as it might be, you just never know. So keep the faith.
Mikee Cojuangco-Jaworski, always a pleasure to see you, to talk sports with you. Best of luck in your new venture in the IOC. We are rooting for you as always.
Thank you. I'm gonna need that, and I really pray I'm able to make you all proud.
Of course, we are proud of you already, but even more. Thank you very much.
Ang sarap, Sev. All I'm thinking about now is, may your tribe increase, Mikey, because you were such an inspiration to us as an athlete. And now you inspire us all over again because you are up against something that's really, really big, and we know you're gonna come through. And you just really make us so proud. Thanks so much, Mikey, for joining us. Sev, sarap makinig kay Mikey talaga.
You and I have covered her for the longest time, haven't we? First of all, let's go into our last look for today. First of all, we'd like to extend our gratitude to all our friends from the different sports publications, the sports websites, for sharing our conversations here in Sports Page and extending it as well. You've seen, most of you may have seen Mikee Cojuangco-Jaworski as the actress, but to us, to me and Chiki, and to all of us who chronicle sports, she will forever be a sporting champion. And now she takes on a larger role. Among the things she has to do, represent us. Take a look at how we do sports in this country. That's not an easy responsibility. But having followed Mikee through the years, we have no question, no doubt that she will succeed. Her election has been like a ray of sunshine, like a warm embrace in the rain. And we look forward to chronicling her accomplishments here on Sports Page. In behalf of Chiki Roapuno, thank you for joining us in this conversation with Mikee Cojuangco-Jaworski. This is Sam Sarmenta saying thank you for joining us here on the Sports Page.